Hello there, this is Shalon with Bible Journaling Ministries, and I'd like to show you how to paint while blowing bubbles. So if you're ready, let's get started. Hi everyone. Today I want to show you how you can use acrylic paints, a little bit of water, and dishwashing liquid to create a fun background while blowing bubbles. So this is the season of bubble blowing, the spring and the summer, and I know at our house we love to blow bubbles. We have a couple of bubble machines, and so we like to blow bubbles. And so I have seen people paint with bubbles, and so I thought, oh my goodness, I could use this in my journaling. And so I wanted to share with you all some tips and tricks of painting with bubbles. And this is just an example, and I was kind of playing around making sure that I had my measurements of paint to dishwashing detergent or dishwashing liquid and water, and then I just played around. But I just love the way that this has turned out here. So I'm going to move this out of the way. And today I am going to be using the Proverbs 31 verses 25 and 26 bonus kit. And it says, "Strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Kind instruction is on her tongue." And so this is a 3-page kit for these verses. And so this is the first page with your flowers and hearts and your washi tape and your tab, a tube of lipstick and a cup of coffee and some flowers, some ladies. And then your second page is going to be more flowers and hearts, more ladies, and your Faith Dex cards and some more washi tape along with your flags. The third page are the larger elements that are great to be used in the Illustrating Bible, though I'm going to use these in my She Reads Truth Bible because my She Reads Truth Bible is my Momentum Bible. And so as you can see, I was practicing with the green color that I'm going to be using to show you all how to blow bubbles and paint with them. And it gets a little messy, so you will want to protect your pages, the pages behind and maybe beside as well. Now my verse in my She Reads Truth Bible is actually on this page. These verses are over here. But because this is the end of a chapter, this page had more open space, and so that's what I decided to use to create my bubble painting background. Now I've already got my green mixed up because I wanted to make sure that I had the color or the measurements correct. So I do have a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon down here. I have a little medicine cup, and I have a bottle of water that I keep on hand down here when I'm getting messy. And I'm just going to be using, this is my color acrylic craft paint, and it is in Lilac Rose. So the other color that I'm going to be using is my color Greener Pastures, and I've already got that mixed up, but I wanted to show you how to mix up your paint, detergent, and water. And I have tried and failed many times with this technique, and it may be a trial and error for you as well, and that's okay. I would definitely start with a scrap piece of paper like I did here and kind of adjust accordingly, because some acrylic paints, are thinner than others, and so you may need to add more paint, but this is what I have found. So, and it works. I've tried to cut it in half, didn't work out so well. I'm sure I could double it and it would be fine, but so I used 2 teaspoons of paint. So here's one. I have my baby wipes on hand very close so that I can wipe this out once I'm finished. and straws. You will need some straws, and make sure that your straws do not have tiny little cracks in them. I just use the straws that I get from the Dollar Tree. They come like 100 in a pack, and I've had them forever. My son is 11, and I think I bought these when he was like 4. So I use them now because he doesn't use them anymore. So I use them for painting and just crafting and things like that. So, okay, so 2 teaspoons of paint, acrylic paint. Then I'm going to grab my Macho bottle of Dawn dishwashing detergent, dishwashing liquid. I keep this on hand for all kinds of things. I keep one in my laundry area. I keep one in my journaling area. But we use Dawn for all kinds of things around the house. Well, I do at least. And now I can say that I use it to paint with bubbles. So I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of Dawn in with my paint. So I'm actually going to start with a darker green because I want to give it time to dry. You do want to give it time to dry and for the bubbles to pop on their own. You don't want to blow dry it until all the bubbles have popped on their own. And sometimes, sometimes it takes them a little while. So I just kind of leave it and come back before you add another color because you don't want to make a mud color with. Okay, so I've got my bottle of water here. I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon of water. And I have tried to half this where I've done 1 teaspoon of paint, 1 teaspoon of Dawn dishwashing liquid, and a half teaspoon of water, and it didn't work out so well. So now I'm just going to take my measuring spoon and just kind of mix this up in the cup. You can also use your straw to mix this. You just want to make sure that you get it all mixed up together. So when I was little, my grandmother used to use whisk laundry detergent to make me a bubble solution. And those are some of the fondest memories that I have of spring and summertime at my grandmother's house. Was her whisk laundry detergent, a big bowl, and great big and small bubble wands. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe off my measuring spoon here. And I keep these down in my journaling area. And I mean, I guess I could use them again up in the kitchen, but after I washed them real good. But I don't. I just leave these down here. Okay, so that's cleaned out. All right. Okay, so I'm actually going to start. So I've got that all mixed up. I could take my straw. You can actually mix it with your straw as well. I'm going to set this aside because I want to start with my darker color, which is my green. I'm going to put that to the side here. And as you can see, I've already got it mixed up. And I had to try it out. So I wanted to make sure that it was a good consistency. And it is. So I'm going to try very hard to keep my hair and head out of the picture. So when you are doing this, remember that you are blowing bubbles, not drinking your liquid. So I'm going to try to keep my Bible is a little chunky, and so it's hard to keep the page flat, but I'm going to take my solution and I'm just going to blow bubbles, and I'll show you how I just place them on the page. And again, because this is a little messy, as you can see, when I was practicing, it did splatter some paint. I'm okay with that. So just remember to blow bubbles. Don't drink your paint solution here. Okay. So I'm just going to let me get this mixed up really good. You can see my bubbles popped there. So I'm going to hold my page a little taut. I'm just going to leave my bubbles here to pop on their own. I think I am going to add just a little bit of water to this because it has sat for a little bit and it's a little bit thick. Just a little, not too much. This is kind of, you need an immediate use type thing. You don't want to let it thicken too much. Okay, so I'm going to try this again with the green, but you can see the beauty of the bubbles popping on their own. Even though this is a little wet here, that's okay. We're going to make it work. Okay. Oh, that was good. Yes. Okay. So now I'm just going to leave those alone. Now I'm going to blow some and put up here. Now, if you are better than I am, I can't really do this very good, but, oh, it did it. Okay, so I just raked off the top with my straw. It usually doesn't work for me, but that time it did. So, okay, so I'm just going to let those bubbles pop on their own. And then once all those bubbles have popped, then I will come back and I can either dab with a tissue to get some of the wet up, or I can use my, really don't want to use my hairdryer because I don't want to move the paint around. I really want to keep this effect. And so it takes a little while for it to dry. I want to make sure my page is flat and taut. But you're just going to let those bubbles, let me see if I can zoom in here so that you can see. You're just going to let the bubbles pop on their own. You're not going to give them any help. Let's see if I can get you a little bit. Okay, so you see the holes where the bubbles are? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to let that dry. I'm going to let the bubbles pop on their own. I'm going to let it dry. And once it dries, then I will come back and I will add my lighter color, this pink color. Now I don't want to add it while the green is still wet because what will happen is it will kind of mix together and make like mud. And so you won't get the same effect with letting the darker dry and then doing the lighter over it. So you want to let those bubbles just pop on their own and let this dry. And like I said, sometimes I come through with like a tissue, and after the bubbles have popped and it's a little more dry, I'll come through and just kind of soak up some of the liquid after the bubbles pop. So I'm going to let these do their thing, and then I'll come back and we will work on the pink bubbles as well. Okay, so about 15 minutes has gone by, and I still have some wet green paint here, but as you can see how the bubbles have given me a different effect on my background here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pink, and I'm going to try to place my bubbles in some of the white space that I have. And then we will let this do its thing and then let it dry. Now I did use in some of these areas where it was a little more wet and had more paint, I just took a tissue, and I'll show you what I did. I just took a couple of tissues, like just your normal Kleenex. I just folded them, and then now all the bubbles have already popped. So I just laid this down gently, and I gently just straight down, not rubbing, patted, and then I come straight up with my tissue like so. And as you can see, it did leave me with a different effect. So let's try that up here as well. So straight down, push straight down lightly, and then pick it up like so. Okay, so now you see the effect that blowing bubbles and painting with bubbles gives you on your page. So now I'm going to come back with my pink, and I'm just mixing this up a little bit, so because it has been sitting here for about 15 minutes. Now I'm actually standing up over my page while I'm recording this for you and moving these bubbles around, okay? To try to hit some of that white space. Now, as you can see, it got a little bit in the gutter here, so I'm just going to take a tissue and I'm just going to come up against my gutter and wipe that up so that it doesn't get too wet there in the gutter and fall onto my other page that I was trying to protect. Okay, so I've got some more bubbles left. Let me see if I can move that around a little bit. And again, I'm just letting my bubbles do their thing and pop on their own. Get this off. I'm just going to wipe down the page here. So as you can see, this is not a neat Bible journaling process. It is messy. And I do try to bring my bubbles, like I'm blowing at the bottom of the cup, but then I try to come up with my straw to kind of get them over onto my page. Now you could do this as a tip-in and just put your paper under your cup of paint and blow and let the bubbles come out. Okay, so I'm just going to let this do its thing again for about another 15 minutes. And as you can see, it's kind of a hot mess over here. That's okay. I'm all right with that. But I'm going to let these bubbles pop on their own and then come back and I'll get a tissue again and show you how I got it in the gutter over here. That's okay. we'll pick that up again after some of this water has dried. Some of the paint has dried. And like I said, I have tried and failed many times at this technique. It turned out with a hot mess, but that's okay. It was just focusing and spending time in the Word with God and meditating on His Word, and that's what it's all about. So, as you can see, I've got some more falling over here in my gutter. Let's take a baby wipe and try to wipe some of that up. And then I can just put it somewhere else on my page. That's okay with me. So I'm going to let this dry and do its thing. I'm going to pull this out just so that my page can lie flat. Because again, I'm kind of in the middle of my Bible and it doesn't, I'm just kind of bending it up. Because she's chunky and she doesn't like to lay flat. Okay, so I'm going to let this do its thing. It will take 10 or 15 minutes, but then I'll come back and we'll lay a tissue on it and pull some of that paint up just like I did on the green. But I want these bubbles to pop on their own. You can kind of see some here, the bigger bubbles that popped already. And the effect that it gives you on your page, as well as just some random splatters from blowing the bubbles and it just splattering on your page, which I like. I like that effect. So I'll be right back. Like I said, this will take about 15 minutes for it to do its thing, and then I'll come back with a tissue and we'll kind of press and lift. Okay. So this has dried, and the more I got to looking at it, the more I thought, man, that really needs to be muted a little more. The colors are just a little too bright for the kit. So I mixed up some just, well, it's an old paint that is an acrylic paint by Duncan that my mom used to use for ceramics, but it's called Native Flesh. And so I mixed that up, and it was a lot thicker. So again, your paint is going to kind of tell you how much water you need. And so I used 1 teaspoon of paint, 1 teaspoon of Dawn, and I used a half a teaspoon of water, and it was still very, very thick. And so I added another half teaspoon. So on this paint, I actually went 1 to 1 to 1 in my ratio, and it bubbles nicely. But I want to use this to kind of mute some of this brightness, these bright colors, especially the pink, because it was a lot brighter than what I had envisioned. So here we go. Oh, I think that will tone it down just enough. So this technique, to me, is just fun because it's so, like, there's no, you'll never do the same thing twice with this technique. And that kind of turned out like a bunch of grapes. It looks like grapes. If it had been purple, it would have looked like a bunch of grapes. So I'm going to pull this out because I really want my page to lay as flat as possible. And what this was doing was kind of tipping it forward. back into the gutter. And so I didn't want that. But again, this is messy. This is a messy technique, and but so fun and so creative. As you can see, I've got paint on my hands, up my arms some. I think I even have some on my shirt. little bitty pops of color that I didn't intend. So I'm going to let this do its thing once again. And then we'll come back and we'll add our elements and we will be finished with this page. Yay! Okay, so my paint is somewhat dry enough. And as you can see, I'm going to take my tissue here and I'm just going to, again, straight down anywhere that it's still a little damp, and just pick straight up. So not much. The pink was a little thick down here at the bottom, so it's still a little wet, but that's okay. I just won't close my Bible. But as you can see, the effect that the bubbles gave, I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit so that you can see the effect that it gave on the page. So I zoomed in a little more so you could see when they popped and where the paint was. Let's move that down just a little bit. Okay, so that is painting with bubbles. And again, it's not a neat technique, and it is one that you could use in a lot of different ways. You could use it as a tip-in. You could take, and when you're blowing your bubbles, take a piece of cardstock and put the, when you've blown your bubbles and they're all at the top, you could take your piece of cardstock and just put it down over those and create it that way. You could, I made a mess with my native flesh bubbles there. It's all over my desk. You could put your cups on a piece of cardstock or a piece of paper and then blow the bubbles out over the cup and just let them catch on the paper. That's fine too. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just going to add my elements onto. Do you all have a hard time with tabs? I like to take them off and fold them where the sticky side is out, but fold them in half and then add them to my page. Because then I have sort of a guide. I don't want to press my page down onto my, down flat, because I don't want it to, not that I didn't get some pink paint in the gutter. That's okay. Again, it's okay. So use my tab here, and I really want to use these bigger words. So the verse says, strength and dignity are her clothing. So I'm going to get this just as far up as I possibly can. Strength and dignity. So I'm going to use the dignity. I love these bigger elements. They're my favorites. I'm sure that you all have seen me use the big elements in several of my videos because I just love them. Strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. And kind is her instruction on her tongue. Okay. So now I believe I want to use this bigger lady, this bigger lady's face. And try not to tear the little flowers that are beside her head. The little branches, the stems. Oh, good. Hey, did pretty good with that. Okay, so now I'm going to just going to lay her right here. And put her down on there like that. And I think that's all I'm going to add to this page. I am going to take my midliner highlighters and I'm going to highlight my verse over on this verses over on that page. And I'm going to use one of this. I'm going to use the thinner side and I'm going to underline my verses. And actually, I believe I am going to add just some of the smaller elements from the first page to tie these two together. Let's see. I think I'm just going to use the hearts and go around my verse there, those verses there. Just to kind of tie it together there. Okay. I don't know. Do I want to do like a 2-page journaling? Oh, that's very tempting. No, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Sometimes I get carried away. Don't we all? So I am going to take my Foodball 1.5 nib size and I'm just going to outline my hearts in black just so that they stand out just a little bit. Like so. And I could go around my words, but I really like the way that it looks by itself. And again, sometimes it's just, we did a lot with the technique, and like I said, it's messy. It is, it's not quick because you have to let the paint dry and the bubbles do their thing. But I wanted to share this fun technique with you. I could spend hours blowing paint bubbles. So I hope you all enjoyed this technique. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already to the Bible Journaling Ministries YouTube channel. And you can also find us on Facebook under Bible Journaling Ministries, but also our Bible Journaling for Beginners community, We are a very fun and active group, and you can learn lots of things in there and be inspired and make new friends. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you again soon.